and welcome to the Trading Bell Show. Today we have a special guest, and I'm always glad when we have a lady on the show. And we have Mary Wamae in the house, the Group Executive Director, Equity Holdings. And she's an amazing person. I've listened to her severally, and I believe our content today is going to really help you out. But first, let's take a look at her profile, then get into the conversation.
Mary Wamae is the Group Executive Director, Equity Group Holdings. She's a highly accomplished professional with extensive experience in law, corporate strategy and leadership. She holds a Bachelor's of Law from the University of Nairobi, a Master's degree in Leading Innovation and Change from York St. John University, and an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. Mary is a certified public secretary and a member of various prestigious institutions, including the Law Society of Kenya and the Institute of Certified Public Secretaries of Kenya. With over 14 years of private legal practice, Mary transitioned to Equity Group Holdings as company secretary before becoming director of strategy and later group executive director overseeing subsidiaries. Her achievements include winning the Angaza Award and the Women of Board Awards for her exceptional leadership in the banking and finance sector. Mary is passionate about mentorship, women's empowerment, education, and environmental conservation. She authored The Village Girl, My Dream Life and Legacy, and co-authored She Leads to promote women's participation in leadership and development.
Mary Wamae, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much, Maina, for hosting me today.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
And you're one of the key leaders, women leaders, especially in the banking sector, financial sector, we may call it that. What has been your journey like to be an executive director?
Thank you, Maina, for that.
Yeah.
It's been a very exciting journey. I started, I'm a lawyer by training.
Yeah.
So I started my career in legal practice.
Okay.
And then in the early 2000,
Yeah.
Equity asked me to support them because that time they were building society.
Yeah. And
they needed to do a few projects, you know, to just make steps forward.
Yeah.
The first one was the investment in, they got a private equity investment from a fund which used to focus on microfinance. And they asked me to support them. But this time it was as an external lawyer to close that deal. It was about $1.6 million, which was a lot at that time.
Absolutely.
It was a great investment.
Yeah.
The first actually investment into a microfinance institution by a specially set up fund.
Yeah.
So we did that successfully. And one of the things that those funds were supposed to use for was to convert Equity building society into a commercial bank.
Okay.
So when the time came, they asked me to support with that one also.
Wow.
But now, because it was a very engaging project, I found that I was taking too much time and I didn't have time for my legal practice.
Yeah.
So when I asked the CEO, Dr. Mwangi, I told him I have a problem because now Equity is taking all my time.
All my time.
As usual, in his usual style, James asked me, so what's the problem? Why don't you come over? So that's actually how I now went into Equity on a full-time permanent basis.
Wow.
And I started as a legal services manager.
Wow.
And the first thing I needed to do was set up a legal department because they didn't have. Equity was very small that time.
Absolutely.
So the structures were just starting to form. So we did that successfully. Now the department is a fully fledged big department with a chief legal officer heading it. And carrying out all the usual duties in that department.
Okay.
And then the rest was actually very exciting because now you can imagine coming from legal practice, just a lawyer, into banking. I mean, I had no clue what banking is all about. So the first thing I set for myself to do is to understand banking and what are the critical factors in banking. So I set out to understand, first of all, the business model of Equity, what Equity does, how it does them, why it does them, the purpose of the institution, and I took a lot of time to understand that. I also took time to understand financials. I used to read, for instance, the financial statements from cover to cover. Wow. And after that, I felt like I was well equipped, you know, to lead because before that, I mean, legal is good, but you know, you need the whole length and breadth of the business and to understand it very well. So I must say that it's been a great journey.
Yeah.
And I became also the secretary to the board as part of my role.
Yeah.
And that also gave me a very good exposure to the strategy of the business and all that.
Wow, that's an amazing journey, just seeing you through. I didn't even know that you're a lawyer behind the scenes.
Yes, I am. I'm a learned friend.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
I was about to say good to meet you, but I am not one. But anyway.
Oh, okay. If you're one, I would ask you, are you more senior or more junior then? Because it depends on who buys coffee, you know? Yeah.
Anyway, I have many friends in that field. Let me ask you, because just curious, how's your day kind of like? Are you checking all the teams around, or what's your role like?
It's very interesting, Maina, and it's glad you asked that, because I mean, I just say that sometimes you say the day in equity is just crazy. For real. Yeah. Because sometimes we have 3 or 4 projects running at the same time, touching on different aspects. Yeah. I have personally led the regional expansion, right from the time the money from Helios Investments came in, a private equity investor who came in and gave us $200 million. Yeah. And that now give us the ability and the balance sheet to grow into the region. Now, what that meant is that we had to go into Uganda, we did 2008. Then we did South Sudan as a greenfield. Uganda was an acquisition with all the, so leading a team acquiring. That was actually our first acquisition. So you are dealing with the legal advisors, transaction advisors, the financial, the accountants, and then the regulators. And the regulators here, you are talking about the central bank, you're talking about the Securities exchange, the capital markets, and you know, in 2 countries, you know, it's very complex.
Absolutely.
But the way I see it is that because I understand the reason why we are doing this, the purpose, why we are doing, and what it will mean for the business, then what it means is that you have to really commit yourself into doing what you need to do. And I mean, people get shocked when I tell them. There are times when I had to literally sleep at work. Yes. Because you know, I need this approval. I have a shareholders meeting, which I have to notify the shareholders within a certain time. Yeah. And the notices and the circulars have to go out, and the printers are dilly-dallying. I literally walk into the printing press and tell them I'm not leaving here without my documents because I have to send them out today or tomorrow morning. Yeah. I did that once or twice. Yeah. So it's just a question of doing what you need to do, but also being able to have the milestones very clear and the targets on, because a lot of these projects are time bound. Yeah. So once you have that very clear plan, then you're able to work backwards and say, this has to happen by the 31st of December. Yeah. Right now we have the transaction in Rwanda, the integration, and we are saying it must happen by 31st of December. Wow. And then work backwards. What needs to be done? Absolutely. There's a system integration, there's operational integration, there's a legal aspect of approvals to be done with the Rwanda regulator. The central bank here has approved. So you work backwards and say, this is what I must achieve before that date. Absolutely. And once you do that organization, you're able to do it. Wow. Yeah, but it's not easy. It's not everyone's cup of tea.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, but I enjoy it. I've enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let's talk about what we've seen in the corporate world, and I'm more focused especially on the women leadership part of it. Yes. Organizations are moving especially towards the ESG. And one of the things that is quite critical is to embed gender representation and gender equity as part of, you know, ESG guidelines that are supposed to be there. And I just wanted to know from your end, how can you advise organizations to ensure that they foster an environment that promotes and supports the advancement of women into leadership roles? And I wanted you to combine with a key challenge that you see, just one, a key challenge that you see, a prominent one especially, when you look at women in the corporate world reaching executive levels. Okay.
There are many challenges from my own experience, and one of them is the policies, the policies that exist in an organization. Some of them, you may not think that they are a barrier, but they become a barrier. Like, are the policies conducive to, you know, like working mothers, for instance, you know, the leave aspect of it. Then there's also the whole environment. Does it make the women feel confident and, you know, like able to perform to their best? Do they feel comfortable in the environment? Because there are some environments that make women uncomfortable. There are maybe practices like sexual harassment, maybe, which is tied also to the policy issue. Does the organization have those sexual harassment policies? Do they have a clear whistleblowing, or what we call the speak up policy, in case someone feels like they are not okay? So those are the things which are actually very important that organizations need to think about. But I would also say that one of the important things is fostering the confidence in the women to aspire to rise. Because sometimes, especially in very competitive environment, you know, like a bank, you know, and we have the key performance indicators being drilled on you, we find that some women feel, you know, they hold back because they are saying, wow, those KPIs are not, I can't. They just make that decision, I cannot meet them. Now, in Equity, for instance, what I did is we noticed that the women were doing very well. At entry level, we are almost 50-50 with the men. But when it gets to the leadership, especially the branch leadership, the number just goes down to about less than 20%, whereas the other one is 50%. And we did a survey and asked the women, and I even had some meetings with them and asked them, what is the issue? Why aren't you not going to the next level? When you get to operations manager, you are comfortable, you know, and there are many there. But when you go to the branch manager level, there are very few. And there were many issues, and one of them was, I take the KPI, but there's also a social aspect of, well, as the man will go to the bar or the club to get that deposit, me, I cannot go because after work, where do I go? I go to my children, go check, is dinner ready, and all that. So there's also that aspect. But there's also the aspect of being able to embrace the challenge. And I set up a program we call Equip for the women, just to inspire them. So it's actually the Equity Inspire program. We set it up on the International Women's Day celebration in 2020, just before COVID. And we have several programs under that Equip program, just to encourage the women. Just go for it. When you see the internal advertisement, there's a position for a manager, data analytics. Go for it. And if you don't have the qualifications, maybe this is your opportunity to build your qualifications. So, and then network. We bring especially very successful women who have made it. Some of them have risen through the ranks in private sector. Some have gone into into public sector, and they have done very well. Some have actually come from very low positions. And they have really done well, just to inspire them and show them that you can do it as a woman. So we have a very strong speak-up policy in Equity. So you can anonymously report if you find that there's something that is really standing in your way of your going forward. And the women, it's open even to the men, but the women, it's a safe space for them where they can actually report. So those are the things that institutions need to think about. But also there's the aspect of intentionally creating the diversity. When I joined Equity, the board of Equity was 100% male. Men. Now today, we have in the group board where I also sit, we have 40% women. The outgoing vice chairperson is a woman, a lady from Rwanda called Evelyn. But we have had to deliberately say that it is part one of the criteria in terms of board diversity, among other criteria, of course. And we are doing that in all the other subsidiaries. So if you go to Rwanda, actually the women are more.
Wow.
When you go to Uganda, I think it's a 50-50.
All right.
But you have to be very intentional and very deliberate about it.
Okay.
When we come to the executive, the group executive, out of 31 executives in the group team, 15 are men, and guess how many are women?
16.
But that has been very deliberate.
Okay.
You know, I am there. I'm the group executive director.
Yes.
The managing director for the insurance group, which we are just forming now, is a lady.
Yes.
The director for credit SME is a lady. In Kenya is also a lady. Bank assurance is a lady.
Okay.
I mean, so you intentionally bring the women on the table.
Yeah.
And you should not also forget the statistics that shows that companies or institutions that have embraced diversity, especially gender diversity, have actually outperformed those that have not. And we have statistics that have been confirmed to that effect. So that is one of the things that leaders must always keep in mind as they embrace the concept of ESG, where diversity is critical, and especially the gender diversity aspect. Yeah, but I think it's a work in progress.
You're right.
Yeah, it's
You're
work in progress.
You're right. Thank you so much for that. Quite elaborate there. You've actually even touched on the mentorship angle and what you're doing internally at Equity. Let's jump in now to the fact that you're an author and you released a book just the other day, which is an amazing one. And just wanted to ask you, your book, The Village Girl, right?
Yes, it's called The Village Girl.
I'm going to get a copy today.
Oh, I have them. I have one for you.
Oh, that's very nice. I think I'll be showing our viewers in a minute.
Okay.
So it reflects on your journey, as I read the back cover and insights. So I just wanted to hear from you, if anybody was to grab that copy, what is I know there are many lessons through a book, but what's the one key lesson you would hope a reader would take home once they pick that particular book?
Thank you, Maina, for that. Let me say that the running theme in that book and why I wrote it, because it goes also to the reason why I wrote it, is that I have come from a very disadvantaged background. And what I wanted to pass across to the readers was to tell them that, or to inspire them to see that the circumstances that they have come from, however disadvantaged, should not be determining how far they can go.
Absolutely.
Because I mean, having been born in a very rural village in central Kenya, to a single mom who was a peasant farmer, really no money, no networks, but she told me, you know, you have to find your way into the world, fight your way into the world. And the first thing she told me is get a good education. So I worked very hard in school and became a lawyer eventually. And then after that, you know, I had a career, you know, in private practice, and then I went to Equity. So for me, always that is at the back of my mind. That, and probably that explains why I've had to work very hard, you know, to get to where I am. So the theme in the book is that it does not matter how low or how disadvantaged you have come. You can rise to the level that you aspire, but of course there's work to be done. You have to work very hard. You have to be focused. You have to be led by a very strong sense of purpose. First of all, in understanding why you are doing this, and secondly, what will be the impact of what you're doing. So that is what the book is all about.
Wow, I just wanted to admire the production crew just passed the book here. There you have it. The Village Girl, My Dream Life and Legacy. It's a beautiful one, lovely cover as well.
Thank you, Maina.
This is very new, so that means I'll get an autograph.
And then my daughter Jackie is the one who helped me to design that cover.
Wow, lovely. Speaking about your daughter.
It's a family project.
It's a family project. As we come to the tail end of the conversation, when you mentioned your daughter, it just hit me that there's a young generation that, you know, look up to you, and you've talked about mentorship. I just wanted to ask you, you know, not everybody can have access to you, but we have many other women who have managed to get to the leadership positions. And I just wanted to ask you briefly, from your perspective, what is the critical role of mentorship, especially in organizations that exist? Because we have a lot of these interns, especially most of them who come in as interns, young persons who really want to aspire to grow. What would you advise leaders in organizations, especially women, your colleagues, to embed mentorship into their organizations? What would be your comment on that?
Yeah, I would say that every organization needs to have a mentorship and coaching program. And you know, you can do it in two ways, either all or both. The first one is where you do the mentorship as a day-to-day thing. In Equity, we have a very good mentorship program whereby, you know, the managers are mentoring their staff on a day-to-day, and sometimes it's just a conversation about performance. And you're talking about what is hindering you. Have you looked at this? Have you tried to do this? And some of these conversations actually make a lot of difference, especially to the young people. Now, the next one is where you have actually a structured mentorship program. Sometimes you could externalize it. Sometimes you could actually do it like the way I've done in Equity. It's all internal. We do it because also it needs to be in the context of the culture of the organization, and it also needs to be into the context of the organization itself, and tied to the business objectives of the organization, because you are really trying to build that culture of performance. So those are two different ways of doing it, but I would say that it is very important that it is done one way or another. We always find that the young generation, they are usually very eager to learn. So once we teach them, they actually start practicing those teachings. So one of my mantras right now is, if you learn, you teach. If you get, you give. Because it makes very significant impact to the life of somebody else and to their performance and to their ability to move forward to the next level. You've
achieved several accolades. I checked you out, including you named the Private Sector Lawyer of the Year and an Angaza Award as well. So how have these recognitions influenced your approach to leadership and your commitment to impact-driven initiatives?
Yes, actually, thank you, Maina, for that. Actually, when I got the Angaza Award in 2021, it was right in the middle of COVID. It actually opened my eyes to something I had not thought much about. Because, you know, I kept on saying I'll write a book. And I want to mentor more. But when I got that, and you know, I saw the citation, you know, you've done very well in the banking, and then I saw the reaction, especially of the young women who are aspiring to leadership and success in various sectors. I said, wow, maybe I know so much. I have accumulated so much experience that it is very, very selfish of me not to share that with others. And actually, that is when I started in earnest writing the book. So when my next birthday came, which was in 2022, I promised the people who came to cut the cake with me that by next year, my next birthday, I'm going to produce a book. And I'll use that book as the springboard to my mentorship career or my mentorship program. And that is what I'm doing. Because sometimes we take for granted what we know. And sometimes we assume that everybody else knows what we know. But it is not true. So those recognitions were very good for me. They were very, very good challenges to me. And what they spoke to me about was that it is time for you now to impact the knowledge that you have gathered over the years, because you have been privileged. I count myself very privileged to share that knowledge with the others, because it will help somebody. And the feedback I'm getting is that, you know, from some of my staff members, the junior colleagues, every time I speak, they are telling me, oh, that point on, you know, passion, that point on purpose, that point on innovation. And people, you know, carry out different messages from when you speak, when you have a conversation. So for me, it is very fulfilling. And I want to do more of it. So, and I really do appreciate that. People have found me worthy to give me those awards. The legal services, the private sector of the lawyer award was actually just last month. And for me, it meant so much because I've now 33 years since I was admitted as an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. So I said, wow, a recognition from my own, profession. I mean, it was quite exciting.
No, you're right.
I must say, because a lot of the others have been in the context of the banking and financial services. Yeah. So that was so special to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Finally, it's a two-part one. I'm curious, who is Mary in the next 10, 15 years? I don't know what your future is like, what you're planning, but also, I also want to hear from your end, because you sit in the decision-making bodies of Equity. Also, I want to hear the future outlook of the bank. I mean, just looking forward to 10 or so years up. I don't know what your aspirations are. So both personal and as Equity.
And as Equity.
Absolutely, yes.
Let me start with as Equity.
Yes.
Probably it's easier.
Yes.
As Equity, we have crafted, because now, as we said earlier, we are now in 6 countries and a rep office in Ethiopia. Yeah. Not yet banking, full banking. Okay. But we have aspirations to do that, and we have a vision for Africa. So when COVID came, we saw the issues associated with COVID, the disruption it caused. But we also saw the opportunities, for us as a bank and also our customers. Yeah. And we crafted what we call the African Recovery and Resilience Plan, which we have been now using as a strategy of the bank. Now, under that plan, we have identified 5 key pillars. And these are the areas which we feel we can really use, to create even more significant impact in the markets and the communities that we are interacting with. So there's food security, that's agribusiness, SME, trade and investment, manufacturing, and then also anchored on a very strong digital program, digitization of our services and products, and then a very strong social impact engine. So those are the 5 key areas pillars that we are focused on under that overarching strategy for the region. So that is what Equity will be pushing in the next, because we realize that if you address issues of food security, you take advantage of manufacturing, this job creation. Absolutely. And what we are saying is that if we do that right, then we will have capacity to create 25 million jobs. By 2030. I believe that is the target now. We are looking at 100 million customers in the group. We are now at about 17 million. So we have very high targets, and we believe we can achieve them because they are areas that speak directly to the people. You look at SME, that is what most of our customers do. Absolutely. I mean, 85% I think of the economy is anchored on the informal sector. So enterprise development is very key. So those are the areas we are looking at. And then we have also seen that social impact programs. We have done Wings to Fly, education, financial literacy, and then use the bank platform and integrate it very well so that it is sustainable. So that's how we are seeing it. For me, personally, personally, I feel that this is the time for me to create a legacy. And that's why also in the book I've talked about my views on creating a legacy. And I've done that very well in the context of Equity. When we see the programs that Equity has done, I've been part of that together with the team, and customers and communities have really benefited. But I also say that I also need to do something that gives a good account of my life. So I'm looking, and this is why I'm also saying I want to structure mentorship and allocate more time to mentorship, so that I have something that I have to offer to the market. So for me, that will be now the next phase, even as I do what I need to do in the bank or in the group.
Thank you so much, Mary,
You're
once
most
again.
Welcome.
There you have it, viewers. There is always a silver lining. Look for it. Look for it. I know it could be tough, as she said, but hey, there's always a silver lining. That's what we are breathing in our life. Wow, what an inspiration. And leadership conversation with Mary Wangari, Executive Director, Group Executive Director, Equity Group. And it's an amazing one. Enjoy this festive season. Thank you so much for your time. It's bye-bye from here. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Bye-bye.